Well, I'm glad to be here in New York City. We had an outstanding event, the annual Rotary at the UN Day, and I was very impressed. I've been coming here for many years, this Rotary at the UN Day, and every time it's getting better. This time I was surprised that we had the Deputy Secretary General spoke outstanding about the relationship between Rotary and the United Nations, but he also had a personal mention. Remember that he was a youth exchange student. He came from Sweden, and he remembered going to so many different Rotary clubs in the state of Indiana. And he was just happy about that, and he had a good feeling about Rotary. And that's something, Matt, that I have to mention. Most people have that good feeling about Rotary because they always have some kind of anecdote to mention their relationship with Rotary, their grandfather, their father, somebody, their mother, somebody's a member of Rotary, and they bring it up. They were a youth exchange student, a Rotary Foundation scholar. So that was very good. But it also, President Ron Burton mentioned that the United Nations, we're so proud of having been part of the founding of the United Nations. Others are involved too, but we had a major part, Rotary International and Rotarians of the world. More than half the founding fathers were all happy to be Rotarians. We're in that wavelength. So I was happy to be there and find out what's happening and also realize that it's our world. We have to come together and find solutions. And the United Nations is a perfect example of what can be done and what should be done. So I mentioned this to you because I was proud to be there. I was proud to see what was happening at the UN. I was glad to see the different panels that they had. Panels where they were able to discuss what was happening in different parts of the Rotary world and what could be done and what should be done. So I was very amazed. But besides that, Matt, being there, I was happy to see the President and the President-elect. They were both there. As past presidents like D.K. Lee was also there. He was representing the Rotary Foundation. I was happy to see the President-elect, Gary Huang, was there, listening to what's happening here. You have to go to be at the UN Day, Rotary at the UN Day, to really understand what Rotary is doing at the international level. And I like the breakout sessions where so many people were involved. I was glad that past President Luis Jai was also involved in one of the panels. I came there as a surprise, like I do in most of these events, and I find out, but every time I see things getting better. All the youth that were there related to Rotary, fantastic. So many wonderful things. So I was glad to be there. I do want to mention to you, Matt, that it's the world of Rotary we live in. So many things are happening. I was glad to go the following Sunday early in the morning. I was driven to Binghamton, and they had their annual fundraiser for the Rotary Foundation for District 7160. This is the district that past Director Bill Cadwallader belonged to. His widow drove me up there. I was able to speak, and there was about 400 plus people there at this. And I was able to thank the family of Bill Cadwallader and their district for all the outstanding work that past Director Bill Cadwallader did in Mexico, Latin America, and in Asia and Africa, getting Rotary Foundation grants to help people in need. And these people were all aware of these things. So I saw Rotary in action. And this is good. And today I've been very happy. I've been with you. You're the governor here of this district. That we were here at the New York City Rotary Club, and we saw the vibrancy of a new inspired New York City Rotary Club, where our good friend Paul Caruso is a former past district governor. Now he's the president of this club. And they're trying to find ways to change with the times. And glad I had the opportunity to speak with them about the importance of changing with the times. Because, Matt, you'll have to remember, I am a business person. And as a business person, I look upon many things as with an entrepreneurial spirit. Not because I'm one of the 200 entrepreneurs of the 20th century of Mexico, just that's the way I am. That's my makeup. And I see that you have to change with the times. And if you don't change with the times, well, you cease to exist. I mentioned to people that I go to shopping centers and I see businesses that are in existence. I see some that are going out of existence. I see new business coming on that we never dreamed we were going to have. And every now I see older ones say, why are they still there? And it's always been because they change with the times. That's why I stress to Rotarians, learn to change with the times. Keep our core values, which are very important, our core values. The importance of working with ethics. applying the four-way test, as you've been so strong, a strong proponent of this year right here, because we are members of Rotary. We guide our life by the four-way test. So I see these things. Well, at the New York City Rotary Club is glad to see an opening that they want to change. They're finding ways, even thinking about making other Rotary clubs here, sponsored by the New York City Rotary Club, clubs for younger people, and sometimes clubs that meet in the morning, which are more economical. They have to realize that all Rotary clubs, it depends what they are. They don't all cost the same. They aren't all expensive. They aren't all very economical. You have economical clubs, and you have clubs that are more economical. And you have clubs that are expensive and more expensive. It all depends on where you're at, what the circumstances are, and Rotary adapts to all of these different situations. So it's been a pleasure being here in New York, Matt. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm reaching out to Rotary, the family of Rotary here, on your Rotary pod system, pod radio. I'm glad to be part of that. Is there any other question you want to ask me?
But first I want to say, Frank, you're a natural, and you even have a perfect voice for radio.
Oh,
Now, how did you start out in Rotary?
Well, there's 5 best-selling Rotary books in the history of Rotary. As I mentioned, if you sell 1,000 books in any part of the world of Rotary, it's called a bestseller book. My first book, Frank Talk, tells about the benefits of belonging to Rotary, and I also mention how I got involved with Rotary. And then Frank Talk 2 is how to change with the times, about clubs that have had success. They've had success by changing with the times, and that's another story. And after Frank Talk 2, it's not Frank Talks too much, like happens on many occasions, like most past district governors and past officers, but it's on our Rotary Foundation. Why is it people more and more every year give to our Rotary Foundation? It's because the love they have for our foundation, the love they have for Rotary, and also because of the credibility. We know that money is going to be used wisely and correctly. Oh, you have problems. Where do they not have problems? But the problems in Rotary are a minority compared to what other organizations have. Then a book, you've read it about leadership. You have those qualities, the 10 traits that Rotarians that have leaders have, some more, some less, but you learn about leadership in Rotary. You learn from other Rotarians around the table. You learn about these things. Some that different walks of life, different environments, different backgrounds, and you learn from those. You learn from people by talking with them. They're a little bit more open than they are in other situations, whether you're in the business world. You talk and you're more open. You notice things. The last book came out on public speaking. Well, we learned to speak better in Rotary because we have an opportunity, and I call that the real world. I've been involved with public speaking since I was in high school, from speech classes, etc. But I recommend a lot of people. Dale Carnegie helps the new presidents coming on board, and all Rotarians. Then I recommend Toastmasters Club. But the real world is belonging to the Rotary Club or the Chamber of Commerce or to your local church organization. You have a chance. Well, this last book I have, Rotarians give their opinion of what helps, what makes people stand out. And that's why I recommend these 5 books. All the profits go to the Rotary Foundation. It's astounding that these books have been made in 14 different languages, the first 2 especially, at no cost to Rotary. And the Rotarians have been involved with those matches. They've all been very successful. I want to thank Gary Huang for making Mandarin. I got to thank D.K. Lee for helping the book being Korean. Mm-hmm. I have to thank so many people. Shok, who's in Turkey for it's a who's who. People have been involved in translating these books. Rotary Brazil, the regional magazine, Portugal magazine. I see them in Italy, 14 languages, and I say to myself, why is it? Because there's a need for these things. But somehow Rotarians, they sometimes forget, Matt, the benefit of making an investment to progress, and that's part of the ABCs of business. You have to invest to go forward. Sometimes they don't realize it. They forget that by giving a book to a potential candidate belonging to Rotary, it will make all the difference in the world. And they think just by word of mouth, when a Rotarian, you have a visitor, you have someone, you have to make an investment. Today, I've been stressing, Matt's different aspects. I think all of us who are in Rotary, in a sense, have to be Rotary headhunters. We look for that person who will be elated to see the benefits of belonging to Rotary. Rotary can be for the most busy persons in the world, but not everyone's going to join in this day and age, in this fast-tracked world. But we can detect the persons who will have a desire of joining.
And also somebody we would like to have as a member.
Of course,
in our
that's
club.
a basic base. That's what I call it, the headhunter concept. I look at the person, and you start, what does a headhunter do? We have to remind what a headhunters do in business. They find out if they're trying to get a person position, how do you feel about traveling? How do you feel about this? They have their background check on the person. And a person who needs somebody, he tells them what the background, what kind of a person you need. Every Rotary Club has different kind of chemistry. Everyone is different. And you look at these clubs and you start to find out what type of Rotary Club is it? What kind of persons do they need? And that's what a headhunter does. A headhunter, you as a district governor, you will see a young person, you say, well, here's a club that I think will be a little bit more beneficial for you because of where you live, where you work, and also you look at the economical aspect. Some clubs are less expensive, some are more expensive. Most Rotary clubs are at a nominal amount. They're not known for being overly. If it's expensive, it depends on who you're talking to. It's what it costs. We don't make money on what we charge people for to go to visit. You're breaking even, no matter what, whether it's $60 a person or whether it's $6.50. You break even on the things. So I just stress, I take advantage of this here. We need Rotary headhunters. Older Rotarians can look for younger people, and I'm a case of that. And I can mention several examples. I'm in Mexico City. I go to I'm the president of all the honorary councils. I'm the honorary council of Jordan. So I go to all these events with diplomats, and I see a tall person there, and he's the head of the Italian Mexico Chamber of Commerce. And he's from Italy. And I tell him, listen, you're from Italy, how often you go back to Italy? Oh, 2 or 3 times a year. Well, I suppose you like to meet the movers and shakers of your community, who are usually Rotarians. Oh, yes. You should belong to a Rotary. Oh, he wasn't pleased. Just by talking to him, he was happy. Well, that happens. He gets to see the movers and shakers in his community going back to Italy. I see a person like that. He's the head of the Mexican-Italy Chamber of Commerce. I see another person. I see him. He's very involved also in his diplomatic affairs. In talking with him, he speaks highly of his grandfather, who was a Rotarian. And he likes belonging and being around influential people. That's the kind of headhunter notices, and I invite him. I saw a person, I saw him going to church and with this young person, and I see him, I get a feeling he tells me that he's involved with helping an orphan. He says, you should be a Rotarian because Rotary give added credibility. Well, these are young people. Everyone I mentioned to you is between the age of 35 and 40. A young girl whose father was a Secretary of Foreign Affairs for Mexico. I see her at an event. Very, very highly thought of in political circles because she's gives counseling and advice. She spoke highly about her. I invited her. She was happy to come into Rotary. She's a president of Rotary Club. Every person I mentioned have been presidents of Rotary Clubs. Now, these are young people between 35, but the other girl was 42. But then I think about a neighbor that I'd spoken to for at least 10 years, and he finally came into Rotary when I least expected, and he was about 64. But he finally came around. See, you have all the different age groups, but as a headhunter, I tell you about these, but there's many others, Matt, that I've spoken to. 10 for each one I brought in, 10 that just, for 1,000,001 valid reasons, they could not belong to Rotary. 1,000,001 people that you talk to, there's only 10% that you'll find that have the qualities and they have the desire of belonging to Rotary, and that's what a headhunter knows how to detect that. It's like in sales. You look at, you can almost feel them out. You can feel them out, and I use those headhunter tactics and say, ask him, how do they do it? How do they go about it? They get a feeling they know the person, and they know the person that will love taking time, investing time to have more satisfaction, of learning that real happiness is helping others. Happiness is having more friends that are ethical, like we have in Rotary. And these are things that I see. So I share that with the people out here in Radio Land and in this podcast that I've had the opportunity of being here today.
Now, does Rotary International teach the headhunter concept?
No, the Rotary does not teach the headhunter concept. That's where it's a new concept, this headhunter concept, because I've come to this conclusion myself. It's like how you helped me promote the four-way test by saying, I'm a member of Rotary, and I guide my life by the four-way test. And then at the bottom, I put down Viva Rotary, and I put my name because I'm giving it to someone, so they know that I've given what you've done similar. You give life to what the four-way test is. But this concept of headhunters, in some parts where they know what a headhunter means. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I'm an example. I remember I'm a business person. Mm-hmm. For many years, I didn't use headhunters, but we have our own department of personnel. But a headhunter has something, and you say they have something, and you can learn from them. It's like today we had an outstanding talk here at the New York City Rotary Club, and it talked about this book here about McKinsey, how they're advisors, and why they've been so successful as consultants. Well, apparently, consultants have something to share. Apparently, advisors have something to share. Mm-hmm. And especially when they're outstanding, we learn from them. So all the time, Matt, you're always learning. Mm-hmm. You're always learning. You have your antennas up to learn what it is. There's something we have, and that's the credibility factor that Rotary has. Mm-hmm. Our Rotary pin, our Rotary insignia, our new Rotary insignia, whatever, it's Rotary. People automatically know that Rotary stands out.
The Rotary,
and even
Rotary brand.
The Rotary brand. And we have a brand that gives added credibility. Yeah. People want to tie in with our brand, and that's why it's good to get a local Rotary Club to endorse a project. You have to start off by getting your local Rotary Club. You don't go right to the top and you want to expect the board of directors to give some kind of recognition. You're losing time. It's impossible. You start at the local Rotary Club, then you go to the district, then you go to other districts, and things start going up the ladder. And having that local Rotary Club endorsement means all the difference in the world.
Rotary is a bottoms-up organization, and I also tell my Rotarians that we have 1.2 million members who all trust each other. And that makes the network very powerful. And why do we trust each other? Because we are giving back to society, and we are basically here for other reasons than strictly selfish.
You got a point there, Madsen. I'm going to compliment you on what you're doing. I compliment you on your promoting. I'll remember one thing. I'm going to give you what happens in today's world of changing with the times. Is I remember your club, the Yonkers Rotary Club,
which has now merged.
I'm glad they merged. Remember, I have a perfect example of my club.
They have increased their membership substantially now.
My club it became a small club. In some parts of the world, they worry about having women coming into Rotary. I was very supportive. In fact, I'm the one that gave the speech at the Council of Legislation, which turned the votes.
Oh, really?
The first lady came and she says, Frank is the one who gave the talk, and I gave the talk, and I wasn't the only one, but I happened to be at that time the one that said the time has come. For God's sake, the time has come.
To me, it's very simple. Yeah. Why should we not use 50% of our intellectual resources?
Well, but some cultures, and not go too far. You're a Swedish background, but the Germans, how they feel. Some, not all of them, but a good majority of them. Things will change. You adapt to every culture. Yeah. In my part of the world, Latin America and Mexico, a lot of people felt that way. My particular club didn't want to have women coming, and so we formed a new Rotary Club, a mixed club, men and women. Mm-hmm. It's much larger than our original club. We started another Rotary Club, it's also much larger than our club. I kept getting smaller, and we formed another club, also men and women, young men and young women, and some older people too. And we started at 4 clubs. Right now we're starting the last one. My club kept getting smaller, so we united with another club of the same way of thinking, the diehards. Well, they came together, so you do for everything. We have all kinds of clubs in Mexico. We have some clubs just women only. It's open to men too, but they have for women. So you adapt to what the changes are. But the example of my club is the way it is. But when I go back to the youngsters, I'm glad they got together. But I saw something, Matt, and I'll remind you on this year. It's unfortunate we don't have the time that they used to have years ago. Where you had the downtown area of a city, of a community. Now you have so many shopping. So before the downtown area, in the small town near where my father was raised, near Chicago, was called Gilman. Some outstanding enthusiasts, but they went out and they went into one office, into the next office, the next office. They covered that small town of 2,500 people, and they got the best to belong because they went in, they sat down, and they say, Matt, we're starting a Rotary Club here in our community. It's going to give enhancement to our community, and we'd like to have you be a member. Well, we do that. Well, today, you can't do that because you go to a shopping center, and the person who's there probably doesn't have the time. They don't give him the time many times. Sometimes you have to detect them. But if you take the time to go business by business, you'll be surprised at people you'll find. Our problem is the time factor, Mets. You're a perfect example. I remember in Youngstown, I don't have the time to do that in Mexico City, to go business by business and to sit down and talk with them. So you come up with different ideas. What can you do? And my ideas are, I mentioned to you once, you go to a leading business and tell them, we'd like to recognize your business at our Rotary Club because if they have done something outstanding, and you ask that business to have them invite their key customers. It's a new concept. You have them invite the key customers that they have to a Rotary Club meeting. If this is an outstanding company in your community, for example, I mentioned Yonkers, where you used to be after being in New York City. If it's an outstanding company, notice that, they'll invite outstanding people as customers. They'll see what the Rotary Club is doing, and they'll be glad to be recognized. It's a different concept, and I could speak hours on this here, but it's a different concept, but it's a way of changing with the times, It's not the old way because it never was done that way before.
No, but what's happened is that this club, when they merged, have now increased their membership in 1 year 50%. And what they did, the president joined Rotary at the age of 76 4 years ago. He's now 80 years old. He was a successful owner of an oil company, which I'm assuming his children are now running. And he decided to go out and fix things in Yonkers. He wanted to do project to him. And a lot of people that he ran into got very interested to participate in fixing up things in Yonkers. So he invited them to the Rotary meeting and said, why don't you come over here and we'll talk about it. Many of those people are now members because they had a passion to do this, to do something for their home community. And that's what's driving this club. And Dave, who's now 80 years old, is energized by this whole experience. And the club increases.
You can't argue with success.
No, a club increases about 1 or 2 members every month.
You know, I look upon that and this idea that I shared with you of looking for new ways to help Rotary, the recognition of the Yonkers Rotary Club, and that could be any ABC Rotary Club, to give to some business once a month. Imagine that the ABC Automobile Agency is recognized by the Yonkers Rotary Club. And you go to the ABC Automobile Distribution Company and say, because they have done a good job, and they're a large company, you get the president involved, the general manager, and we want you to we want to recognize you this month. We want to recognize the ABC Automotive Agency. And we want you to invite 50 of your members, your customers, your key customers, and they'll be happy because they'll get recognition. Of course, I'm assuming that you're talking to the ABC Automobile Agency because they are a good company. You check them out. You have to be sure they're a good company. And you say you want to recognize them, and they will be more than happy to invite their key customers, because to get Rotary recognition, man, it's fantastic. It's getting like the Good Housekeeping Seal of Approval. You get the Good Rotary Seal of Approval.
Actually, I can tell you what happened. Frank Coppola, who you met when you were at this club, he sells automobiles. He took this certificate of the four-way test, put it on the wall in his office, came back to me 3 weeks later and said, I now sell more automobiles.
Of course. There's so many. Well, he's going to sell more when he invites 50 of his key customers to a Rotary meeting that's going to recognize his automobile agency, because they are a good agency, because he is a Rotarian. They're going to notice that of the 50 people he invites, only about 30 are going to be, he's going to pay for it, too. They pay for it. Tell them, you pay for it. It's a very normal process that the people being recognized invite people to the wedding, to the recognition thing. And we forget it. That's a little simple thing like that, but it takes someone to sit down and sell the concept. And I give you as an example, if you were Frank Coppola, that's his name, right? Frank Coppola. I looked at Frank Coppola. Well, our Rotary Club wants to recognize your car agency. And we want to do that for the month of May. And we'd like to recognize you because I think you deserve it, because you're an outstanding company. You're here in the community. People have made a vote. We voted at our Rotary Club that you should be recognized. And we'd like to have you to make sure that this is known. We're going to invite the media to our event, but we want you to invite 50 of your key customers. It's not going to cost you that much here in Rotary. You know, we have a special price that we get here. It's going to cost you $28 per person. You invite them, and it's going to be good PR that they're going to see that the community, Rotary Club of Yonkers, I use Yonkers as an example. It can be Syracuse, it can be Mexico City, it can be Buenos Aires, it can be Paris, France, is recognizing this business, your automobile agency, as an example. It can be for the printing company. It can be for the Coca-Cola bottling company. It's just good business. I give you that idea because, Matt, you're a very creative person, and you're always looking for new ideas. That's one of your abilities that you have, looking for new ideas and new concepts. Other people, they just look at the old ways of doing things. You're always looking for the new ways of doing things. The example of our four-way test that we talked about is an example. We both worked together on that. And so I share those with you. I wish you success here in this radio program, that more people become involved. I compliment you for taking advantage of every opportunity to get people to sit down and share their ideas. Yes. I'm glad I've had this opportunity of sharing my ideas with you here in your program.
Well, thank you, Frank. That was very good.